Hey friends, welcome back to DBC Inc. Live. I am Tara Martin, your host, and I am here with Pam and Kendall, the authors of Choosing to See. So excited to have them in the house today. Welcome, Pam and Kendall.
Hey,
Hi.
Well, I'm going to let them formally introduce themselves in a moment, but while we are getting started and people are joining in, remember, every single comment over in the comment section from tonight through tomorrow will be entered to win a new book. And you will win the book Choosing to See, which is absolutely outstanding. I know you will love it. There's so many great ideas, even if you're not a math teacher, that you can use right inside your classroom. And so you definitely want to get your comments, your amen corner warmed up over in the comment section so you can be entered to win that book. But without further ado, I think we should go ahead and let our guests share who they are, what they do, and yeah, I'll let you guys take it away. So Pam, let's start with you.
Okay, I'm Pam Seda. I'm currently the math coordinator for Griffin-Spalding County Schools, K-12. I've been in education for over 30 years. I was a former high school math teacher, instructional coach. I've been a coordinator in other Metro Atlanta, Georgia area school systems. And I'm just excited to be here.
We are excited to have you too. I can't wait to learn from y'all too. So Kendall, go ahead and take it away and tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do. What does that look like right now for you?
All right. So my name is Kendall Brown. I'm the executive director of the California Mathematics Project, and we do professional and leadership development for K-12 teachers across the state of California. I began my career as a classroom teacher at the middle and high school level. I've been involved in professional development, teacher education, working with both pre-service and in-service teachers. And I guess that's about it. I'm also excited to be here.
And you have a new one that just went to college. Is that correct?
I sure do. I just dropped my daughter off at Hampton University a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. How does that feel?
Oh, wow. It's bittersweet, happy to see them kind of go spread their wings and gain that independence. But of course, you always miss your baby girl. So
yes, yes. I had to do that a couple of years ago and whew, so hard. I mean, I feel like I'm much better now. I only have one boy,
yeah.
But this mama was struggling at first for about a month and a half.
Well, I have 4. So, after the first 2, you're like, spread your wings, go fly.
Yeah, I had to fall in love with my husband again. I'm like, oh my God, we gotta find some stuff to do and talk to each other.
Exactly.
Like we don't have a kid in between us anymore. So speaking of children, we just love family here in the DBC Inc. family, of course. Pam, it was your daughter that helped design the cover of Choosing to See. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So, all my money that I invested in her architecture degree
yeah, right.
has come. So, I regularly get her to do graphic design for me. She's created posters for me for the Standards for Mathematical Practice. She's helped design my math card game. And so it was just another thing. Hey, Candace, here, draw something for us and we wanted something to be inspired by African geometry. And so she was, my husband's from Kenya. So she's grown up around, her cousins and everything from my husband's side of the family. So it was very natural for her to do that. And it was, she had fun doing it.
Seriously, the most beautiful cover. I'll try to pull it up here in a second while they're talking, but it is absolutely stunning. You have to see it. So speaking of Choosing to See, I'm curious, before we dive into the content we're going to be talking about tonight, what is it that you guys are hoping the readers will gain from Choosing to See? And either of you can go and start explaining. And while you're talking, I'm going to pull up the slide so they can see it.
Okay, I would respond to that by saying we really hope so often teachers are being challenged to engage their students in equitable teaching practices. There's been, this move for equity in mathematics education over the last 20 years. And oftentimes, math teachers who've been so steeped in content are at a loss to how do I make my math class more equitable? How do I infuse culturally responsive and relevant instruction into my mathematics teaching? And we hope that this book would give teachers specific strategies and resources that they could do to make their classes more equitable for all students and more culturally responsive.
Yeah, and it's funny that you asked that question, because I was right on Twitter right before I got on this call, and someone responded to someone's question. They reached out for help and they said, "Help, I'm engaging in these practices, and I have these students who just refuse to do anything." And somebody replied, they said, "Well, you know what? That sounds a lot like chapter 4, Jasmine, in the book Choosing to See." And they gave them some strategies to try. And I said, that's what I wanted to accomplish with this book.
Yes,
I
practical.
want teachers to feel seen and heard and not just judged because of their challenges in the classroom.
I love that. I love that so much on many different levels, but especially that not only did that person take something and apply it to their practice immediately, but they were able to help another to also see that strategy. And that is where it's the beauty of our authors putting their work out there, and all of you out there sharing your work with others, because the seed is just planted at that moment. And then as it goes out there and it gets watered, it grows into something so much more beautiful, and more people get influenced. And with your jump, your putting that out there is just like the ripple effect is immeasurable, right? And I think that's what I love so much about just authors, bloggers, any of you that are putting your work out on Twitter. Share it with the world. You never know how many students might benefit from it. And think about all those students that were just affected, not only this year, but for every year that teacher teaches. Both of those teachers are going to impact all those students and provide those equitable opportunities for them in the classroom. I just love that so much. But yeah, look at this cover. I mean, it is stunning. When this cover came across in my email, I was just like, and I see a lot of covers. We publish a lot of books, and I was just blown away. I'm like, whoa, that is so beautiful and eye-catching. So the content inside of it is equally as awesome. So you definitely want to pick up the book if you're not the winner. So, but for now, you should get a comment over in the comment section in case you might win one. I'm going to let these two take it away. They're going to be sharing something with us tonight that we can take and apply right away, or just something they're thinking about that will help us to grow and stretch as professionals, personally. However, whatever you want to share with us, I trust you. I'm so excited to learn from you tonight. So I'm going to take this cover down and let these two amazing educators take the floor. So it's all you.
Okay. So I guess I can start. We decided that we were going to talk about our Assess, Activate, and Build on Prior Knowledge chapter. And so we kind of will start with our definition. So the definition from the book is, it means to value the prior knowledge that students bring to the classroom, both personal and cultural, and leverage that knowledge as a resource for creating new knowledge. And the reason we think that is so important is because oftentimes we make assumptions based on stereotypes and past experiences. We make assumptions about what kids know and don't know without necessarily collecting evidence to support those assumptions. And so that's why we feel like it's important to assess, which means find out what kids really know before you start a lesson. Activate, and understand that sometimes kids have learned things, but you know that phrase, if you don't use it, you lose it. It may be buried down in the recesses of their mind somewhere. And so you need to engage in some activities that help activate that knowledge, bring it back from those deep, dark recesses and bring it back to the forefront of their knowledge so they can then build on it. And then the last thing is build on prior knowledge, understanding that no matter how many honors kids you have, you're going to always have kids who just don't necessarily have the prerequisites that they need. And that should just be a part of instruction. So many times, and I've been guilty where I would you don't know how to do this. I'm teaching pre-calculus and I still have kids who can't add simple fractions. And I would get attitude, I guess I have to go back and reteach this. And then, I've never really thought about it initially about how does that make the students feel? Like they feel like, oh, I'm this teacher's pet project. So now they're not going to reveal the fact that they don't know something because they're going to be embarrassed that I've got this attitude about going and building that prior knowledge. So that's why we feel like this principle really is important when it comes to equity in the math classroom. Tara, you're muted.
The story, that is like the line of 2020. We don't need to bring that into 2021. Sorry about that. I couldn't agree more. That's what I said. Absolutely. That's what I said when I was muted. So, Kendall, I'm going to turn it over to you. Expand a little bit on that for us.
So, we love to kind of make our points by telling stories. And so one of the stories in the book comes from a colleague of mine who was working at a high school that had this very interesting algebra program. They divided their first year algebra into these 10-week blocks, let's say block A, B, C, and D. And in order to move on to the second 10-week block, you needed to have passed the first 10-week block, and so on. To get to the third one, you have to pass the second one, and eventually you would have passed the entire first year of Algebra 1. But, as many of us who've taught at the high school level, Algebra 1 can be a challenge for a lot of students. And what they were finding is that there were large numbers of students who were never able to pass out of that first class. And so they were just repeating block A the entire year and never being successful. And so my friend was teaching one of these courses, and after having that same, you come into a school, you kind of follow the patterns and things that have already been laid out, the lesson plans that have already been laid out the first time you're teaching something. But he found that a large number of his students failed that first course and had to come back the second course and repeat it. And so he said, you know what? I need to do something. Something's not working because this is just prevalent. It's happening over and over again. So he decided to, before he started teaching the class, give the students an assessment to find out what were their strengths, because he found out that there was, of course, like Pam said, variation. There were students who knew certain things and other students who didn't. So he gave them an assessment to find out exactly what they did know. And so he knew he didn't have to repeat those topics for those particular students. And all he needed to do was to focus on those areas that they didn't understand well. And once he did that, he was able to get those students to successfully pass that A block and get out of that perpetual cycle of just repeating over and over again. And so that just points to the real importance of making sure that you assess students to find out what they do know, so you don't have to waste time, repeating things that they already know, and you can really focus on where the gaps are and move them along so that they can, continue their educational career in mathematics. So that's one story that is part of that chapter.
I love that. I think it's so true too. And I think a lot of times, students get real nervous. At least I remember in the classroom, when you try to give them those pre-assessments and they're like, I don't know this stuff. And you're like, it's okay. You don't have to. But unfortunately, the system that we've grown up in, you get tested after you've been taught everything. And so you feel like you have to know everything. But the truth is, if we ever can get past that and we're using this as a learning tool. Like, I want to see what you already know. And if you don't know it, that's perfect, because I'm planning on teaching it. But if you already know it, I don't have to teach it. And I think that's just such a great way to go about in all areas, like not just in education, like in all areas. There's a lot of times I feel like we sit in meetings and it's like stuff we know. So why not test and see, like, what do they already know? And then what could I actually spend this professional development time teaching them that's actually going to help them to grow from point A to point B? It doesn't matter what age learners are, right?
Absolutely.
I love that. Go ahead, Pam.
Oh no, I wish. I'm just thinking of a situation where I was just talking with school administration, and they were wanting me to come in and basically start over, like we're starting the beginning of the year, as if they haven't received any PD or anything. And I was just thinking about how those teachers probably would really appreciate if somebody had assessed where their knowledge was already and then start from there.
I feel like it allows the learners to know, like, we actually care about what you already know. We care about you, your voice, your prior knowledge, everything you already have is important to
and valued. Yes.
Yes. It's recognizing that they do have that prior knowledge, one, and acknowledging that that knowledge is useful for what it is we're going to do. I mean, that's one of the problems that I really have an issue with, this whole idea of learning loss, right? To me, that's such a deficit perspective that's being associated with, the pandemic and students having been out of school, physical school for a long time. The assumption is that they missed something. And I would like us to take a much more assets-based approach and say, what did you learn while you were off these 18 months, right? That we can use to build on for the instruction.
And leave that so open, right? What did you learn? Because what they learned could not be academic. It could not be a certain function or formula or algorithm that we should know at this moment. It could be that I learned to value family a little bit more. Like, I learned to appreciate the hot lunches I get at school. I mean, what is it that they learned? It could be some skill that is really going to carry them through life when they have to go through a struggle or they go through a hard time. They learn resilience. They learn some things that, like, we might not have thought of.
Yeah, and I think what's really powerful about what Kendall just said was, what did they learn that could be used to help them learn what they need to learn?
Right.
It's not just about making kids feel good, right? It's not just about ignoring the fact that there's things that they still need to learn. Right. It's starting with what kids already know, because that's how the brain works. It works on connection. And so that we are valuing these things so that we can use them as bridges to the new knowledge.
Exactly. I love the idea of bridges too. And I feel like, when someone that is my leader, so say Dave takes me on to have this new job, and he assesses all the things I already know and recognizes those, it makes me want to work harder for all the things that I don't know, because he actually appreciates the talents and strengths I already have. And then he's like, okay, now how do we get those transferred over to this? Because we really need to get you here so we can help our readers or help our authors or whatever it is we need. And I think it's the same with students when we say, wow, like, all these things. This is so powerful. This is going to be an incredible bridge. Or you learned resiliency. Resiliency is really going to help when we get to these hard lessons, because you're going to be able to transfer that right into, like, what we're going to be learning. But like you said, it just builds the little bridge and helps them to feel like, hey, I already have some things. Like, I got some of this. Like, I'm ready for this.
Yeah. So I saw that Dave was asking about the math conference that we were supposed to be speaking at. And so we were actually slated to speak at both the NCSM and the NCTM conference. So NCSM is being converted to a virtual conference. And NCTM has just been canceled.
To be continued. Next year. That's what we keep saying about everything. Next year, things are going to get better. Next week, things are going to get better. We'll see. We'll see. That's awesome. I can't wait to hear more about it. So when is that conference, in case anybody wants to join? If it's virtual.
The NCSM conference is still, the virtual conference is going to be the September 20th and 21st.
Okay. And they can just look on the NCSM website.
Yeah, it's in the process. They'll be releasing it very soon. But it's not out there quite yet.
Perfect. I love that. Amy says this discussion reminds her of her classroom discussion day and how everyone's brain works differently. So we need to be respectful for those who might not get it right away. I think that's true. Like, not only are you accessing the things that, hey, they all know, but you're also recognizing that we have like so many different types of learners out here. And look at all the things we know collectively. Like, we put all that together, we're quite the team, but how do we get each individual to kind of have all those little pieces of knowledge in their own brains? I love that, Amy.
Yes, it reminds me of that African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
I love it. I think that's a kind of a perfect way to end this show too. And I appreciate all of you for joining in. They have some more ideas, just like the Paul Solar's marble theory. Tell us more, Nick, on the marble theory. Yes, I agree. Dave really wants to cross paths with you. Amy, thanks for joining. That was fantastic. We really appreciate all of you joining. I saw Vicky over here. I saw Linda pitching in a little bit, and Steven. So excited to have you guys in the show tonight. And remember, if you would like to follow Pam and Kendall, or you're reading Choose to See and you want to share your reflections out, you just heard Pam talk about how much she loves that, and Kendall too, to see that out on social media. So how can they connect with you too?
Well, we just created a Facebook group around the book, Choosing to See. So it's a Facebook group called Choosing to See Math Equity. And so that is that's just a place for people to, we'll post questions periodically. But I have a website, pamseta.com is my website. And then you can reach us on Twitter. My handle is at PamSeta1. Kendall?
And I am on Facebook, Kendall Allen Brown. I'm on Twitter, Kendall AB. I'm on LinkedIn. I think that's just Kendall Brown. And I also have a website, KendallBrownEducationalConsulting.com.
Awesome. Dave has pulled up that Facebook group. So be sure and go check that out in the links in the comments. Follow these two. You will not be disappointed. They put out incredible content. And Nick did share a little bit about the marble. She said everyone has the same amount of marbles, but they're just in different containers. So saying like their strengths, I guess. And so everyone has the same amount, but their strengths are just a little bit different. And recognizing that we all have different strengths, but together we're so much more powerful. We can mix those up a little bit. So that's super exciting. I love this conversation. I love just appreciating all students. And I think that's really what Choosing to See really helps us with. The strategies are all about including everyone and making sure that we value all of them. And I think it's just a powerful book. It doesn't matter if you're a math teacher. Yes, they're mostly addressed to math, but these strategies work for anybody. We just talked about them, how it works just even for adult learners. So be sure and follow these two amazing educators, Pam and Kendall. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you are watching this on the playback, don't forget to leave a comment over in the comment section, because we use those comments to choose a winner. And if you aren't chosen, no worries. Click above or below this video, depending on where you're watching. Click that link. You can read the first couple of chapters for free. It's part of the deal. And then you can just go up to Amazon link bubble and click that and order yours today. So thank you all for joining. Thanks, Daniel, for joining. And hope you guys have a fantastic evening. Pam and Kendall, you guys are awesome. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.